Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday, June 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today. And looking at the daily chart, you can see we continue to get followed through today. We took all that bounce back, and it looked like we were going to bounce again today, but ended up closing closer to the lows. We had a nice downtrend early, and then we just really went sideways, corrected a little bit, and then finally sold off again. So we'll flip over there and we'll look at the 2000 tick chart and you can see what I'm talking about. But let's flip over. So you can see it's a little bit of mixed trading again, but we did close closer to the lows today. Early on, we had a real steep channel, and then we folded over into this darker blue channel here. There's not a lot of difference in those colors. Let me darken that one a little bit just to make it a little easier for you to. There you go. And you can see we had a break and a new low here on the main channel. And then finally, we actually had a break of both channels here in a new low, and then we ended up making another low here all the same. This one might have been more like this, and actually it fits much better there. So yeah, it looks like to me we had a break of the steeper channel and a new low, and then a break of the darker blue channel. And it took a while, but we made a new low, and then we rallied after that, and then sold off. So there it is. That's the pretty much a quick detail of what the day happened for the day. But let's zoom in here and we'll look at where the trades were. We had a few nice shorts early on, and there's a few trades spread around in here. We just kind of went sideways after a while. But 7 o'clock came right in here, and I don't think I would wait and go short at this low. I hate to go short at the very low of a bar that's making the low in the entire move down. Same thing in the entire move up. It'd be like going long, and see what happened here. If you went long above that bar, it reverses on you before it goes higher. So I don't like this one tried, but the market was obviously too weak. So I don't really like going short there. Now this one did break higher and turn down, creating a little trap. So maybe you trade that as a trap and enter on the engulfing bar. And maybe you try to get a little better entry there too, but it's the only problem with entering on the engulfing bar is that there's a lot of support there too. So you don't really see that it's going to close lower till here, and then I just don't trust those bars. Like I said, going short at the very low of a big bar that's making a low for the entire move down, I just don't like that. And because you can see exactly what happened here, it would be just the opposite. You're going if you went long above that big bar making the high, it breaks up and reverses and turns down again. Of course, there's no trap on this one, but all the same, it's still a very similar kind of setup, and you just have to be careful of them. So maybe you take that trade, maybe you don't. I say that early in the morning, wait for something better. Continued on down here, we got a break, move to a new low. No real setups there. Look like we might bounce out of there, and it just keeps going lower, and then it starts working sideways here. So then you have to wonder, hey, maybe we've folded over into a little different channel. This channel is actually a little tighter here, like so. And that's what happened, looks like to me. Uh, we're really just kind of working sideways. And this one's tempting. It's like 3, 4 ticks, um, but it makes a new high there. So notice how that high is higher than those last few highs. So when you see that, generally you're better off to wait on a lower high, and you just never get one here. We finally get 2 legs down, and then we correct again, and we come back up here, and we get a basically get a triple test across here. That's also a second entry short. It's the first break of this trend line. Looks like actually it's right at this higher trend line, and actually that's the way I originally had it drawn. I'm pretty sure this morning, so this thing must have shifted down. Because I had it drawn off those first 3 swings. So I like that short right there. You got the trend line, you got the support resistance line, or actually it's a resistance line. You're a little bit away from the EMA. You could argue that we've tested that 1, 2, 3, 4 times basically there. I like going short there. That's a pretty good entry. You may not have got a runner because it does bounce for a second before it goes on down. So if you move to break in, you certainly didn't get a runner on that one. And then we drop on down. This looks a little like a failed second entry long. Notice we're moving down. You get a first entry and you get another leg down second entry. That's a fairly large move back from way down here to really call that a failure, but you might still call that a failure and take that one. I'd give it a green. But we drop on down, and then you get a first entry, second entry right at the midline. Um, nice, very bearish signal bar. And this is really congestion right here, a little uh, trading range, as you can see. This is like a failed breakout too, so we're probably going to at least pull back and test that. So I like going short there. I didn't mark that, but let me put it on there for you. You can see that we break out, turn back down, and makes a new low there, and then it finally reverses. And you would expect we're coming back to this trend line, and you can see it looks like we're going to turn down, and then boom, it gets the go ahead and it gets the break right there, and then moves on down. So, but notice the close outside move to a new high. Maybe you go short right there. There's a little bit of stem there. The main reason I like this one is because it's one you definitely can say that's a triple test now, and it's a pretty big bar. So far away from the EMA, you're looking for a correction. This one's close to being green just because there's a little bit of stem, but I'm pretty sure that closes in the lower 1/3. The better trade would be to wait on the lower high, but the problem is sometimes you don't get those. But here you get one still a long way from the EMA. That's your ideal entry point. And then we're just chopping along. There is a triple test here with a nice signal bar, but the last few tries, look how we hadn't been able to get through that midline. So I'm wary of that one. It does push on through, but you don't know it's going to do that. So then we turn down here, and you can argue there's a triple test with a nice signal bar that closes through the midline. But the problem here is the next bar doesn't close below it. So now you got to go short below an inside bar, and I just don't trust those. I think you're better off to skip that trade, and then you get a little breakout pullback short here. But again, I don't like going short at the low of that bar, and I think you're just better off to wait. Runs on down to the lows, but it makes a new low there, so you probably want to wait on a higher low. This is one of those where you may, it's always a gamble, but sometimes those gambles pay off. So maybe you take that trade, but there is a break in a new low, but there's a chance it could tick higher there and turn down and stop you out, even though it is going to fail to go lower and come back. So wait on that higher low, which comes here, but that bar is so big, and it closes right into the EMA, and it's just, it's like 17 ticks. That's a pretty big bar lately. So I'm not crazy about that one. This is one I'd say wait and see if you get a failure, which you do right here. So I like going long right there. And all it gives you is a scalp, nothing more. It comes back, runs the stops, and then goes higher. If this one would have broke higher here, that would have been a nice second entry to take on a retest. But again, you're going long right into the midline. So I don't know if you'd take that or not. It didn't set up anyway. So it's tempting to go short right here, but we're not quite to the highs yet. Although you can see we're close to where we turned down the last few times, but we couldn't even get back to there. So that still leads you to think that with that break and new high that quick, that, hey, we could still maybe go higher, but we could be running out of steam and this thing may go lower. And then you get a little, what looks like a trap right there, but just can't go short into all that support. You see it failed before it went lower. And now you're bouncing around down here again. So again, it's tempting to go long, but I just don't see anything in there that, look at, we're really struggling to get back above the EMA, and a lot of sideways congestion looking stuff here. When you finally get a bar that makes a low, it's too bearish. You don't get a reversal, you just get a high or low, and I think that's moved too far to consider that as a high or low. Now, you could say, hey, that's a first entry, second entry, but that doesn't look like a leg to me. That just looks like a first entry. So I'm not going to risk that on that ugly signal bar. I mean, it's not a, I mean, it probably closes close to the top 1/3, but it's just not it's not a really good setup. So just, if you took it, great, it worked, but I think it's risky. Um, and then, of course, we run up here and you come back to the trend line again, but too congested. Runs to the highs. Signal bar here is no good if you want to try to trade that breakout. You get a lower high here, but no signal bar, no reversal, and it runs down here and it actually turns back up again. Um, there's a higher low here, but that bar is almost too neutral. I mean, maybe it closes close to the upper 1/3, but I'd probably skip that trade. Um, you do have a close outside and a new low here, but there's a chance that could tick up and turn down again. So I don't like that one. That just looks like sideways congestion to me. So you might even call that a double bottom, and then you get a first entry, second entry. So you get a failed second entry, but you also get a new high right here. So first entry, second entry. So if it breaks higher there, not only is it a failed second entry short, it is a second entry long. And with that combo, you'll probably get at least a measured leg up, I would say. And you can see it right there. There's your two legs up. And you might take that breakout. I didn't mark it. Let's just mark it green because we talk about these all the time. These are much more risky when you take the breakout if it makes a new high, because notice it's higher than that one. And this one, of course, was higher than the previous highs. So you got to be careful on those because you might be too early. You can see we'd made a double move there. So maybe you take that short, just trying to ride it back. And I mean, even if the breakout's going to be successful, it's probably going to fail temporarily anyway. And then a few minutes later, you get a second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry, and it's a lower high too. So I like that one. It's only good for a scalp, and it bounces again. And then that one's tempting as well. There's a hidden second entry there, but you could say you can't really call that a failure because it's on the wrong side of the EMA. You might say it's a double top. We're still a little ways, but again, you might argue for that to be green, but I would wait on it. See if you get a lower high, which is here, and that's where you want to enter. And then it takes off. And then this almost looks like two legs back that turns down, but it's mostly just sideways. I mean, that one has a small enough body you could almost call that congestion, but you don't have much room to these lows, so I'd just skip that. And then if you wait a few minutes, you get a lower high, and that was the better place to enter. And there's still plenty of room back to the midline in case it bounces there again. So that's the better entry. And of course, you do get a break there. We'll color that one just to make it easier to see. And there is a second entry right here, but the signal bar is not good enough, and you're still really inside this channel anyway. There is a lower high here, but we really don't have a close outside the new high yet, so I'm a little wary of going short right there. But again, it's another one you might say, okay, it's a lower high, we're headed lower, but you do see we already have a close outside and new low there, so this looks like it's played out. So with that case, I'm not crazy about this trade. I'll mark it green. And then of course we don't make we make a higher low basically, and there is a second entry long there, but it's two bar matching highs right into the EMA, and you see how it struggles to go higher. I'm not going to go long there. You definitely don't want to go short here, right into this midline. So I think you're better off it's hard to know what prices are doing here. Are they going to make a higher low and go higher? Are they going to struggle getting through here and then finally go lower? It's really hard to know. So when you can't be 100% certain, just don't trade. Just skip all that. And of course it does. It takes off. but you just don't really get a chance to trade any of this. It just runs higher, and it doesn't quite get a measured move. It basically tests the close from yesterday. Or is that the opening from yesterday? That's the close. Okay. Uh, the opening's the yellow. Got confused for a minute there, but it runs up, and then next thing you know, we're running down. And again, I think you got to be careful going short here because we may come back to the trend line and push up to make this measured move. But notice what's happens. It bounces. This looks too congested to go long on this, so you just kind of have to wait. And the next thing you know, it turns down again. And I don't think you want to go short here because that's the first close outside this trend line. And it may tick lower and turn back up and run up and make the high and make the measured move. And it does make a second entry short right here, which is outside the trend line now. And if you had a good signal bar, I'd say maybe take that, but that's just too bullish. And you can see it runs down, comes back again, still no setup. It finally makes a lower high here, but kind of a neutral bar, and that takes us on into 230 and not much left, and we did close a bit lower here. So we took most of that rally back pretty quickly. There was some strong buying there, but even stronger selling that took us back down to new lows that we couldn't reach across here earlier. So there it is. Somebody may ask me about this, but normally I've been telling you lately, anything that's red, be flat. But when you get somebody testifying like that, you could get some fireworks. But the problem is they're not going to come out. The speech starts at, or whatever they're doing, when they start going over the minutes or whatever, or testifying, they start at 9 o'clock. That don't mean he's going to say something right at the opening words that's going to affect the market. So it could be an hour into it, an hour and a half, 10 minutes into it. You don't know. So this one's harder to anticipate. So I usually ignore it. If the market's been super volatile and super crazy, maybe you do sit out for a few minutes and see what happens. But again, it's hard to know what time to sit out because it's not going to happen right at the 9 o'clock. That's just when his speech starts. So or is any kind of them going over the minutes and testifying what they did at the last meeting or what they plan to do at the upcoming meeting. So, but something could come out in those meetings, so be aware of it. I just don't think it's any need to be flat going into 9 o'clock on that. So just be aware. But be aware of it in case something, maybe that's why we rallied here. Maybe he said something that the market liked right about lunchtime, and it rallied for a little bit. My guess is all the big traders were gone to lunch, and they come back and they start selling again. But who knows? We don't know exactly what's happening there. So it's just a wild guess. Anyway, there it is. That's how I saw it today. Really, we had an early sell-off, late morning, early afternoon rally, and then it sold back off again down to the previous trying to test the previous lows. So it's kind of a mixed day, kind of an up-down kind of day again. But we closed lower again today. So the market's continuing to push lower. So my guess is we're headed to the midline on that daily chart. We'll just have to see. But needless to say, there it is. There's not much else I can say about today. So I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you had a good trading day. Believe it or not, tomorrow will be Thursday. It's a short week because of the Monday holiday again. So we'll come in tomorrow and we'll wrap up this week, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.